Hey everyone, Dr. Richard Lai here with Study Acupuncture with me. So today we're going to discuss a very important topic, the COVID-19 vaccine. And to be honest with you, I'm a little nervous releasing a video like this because it can be a controversial topic. But the thing is, in healthcare, there's no room for ego and there's no room for opinion. And we can't let ego and opinion get in the way of our patients making an informed decision. So we have to stick with the facts, we have to give the facts to our patient, and let them make the most informed decision for themselves. So let's start with that, the facts.
Okay, so if your patient needs education on COVID-19, it's best always to gain agreement and focus on what we all know first. So, what do we know about COVID-19? We know that it's an infection, we know that it's a virus, and we know that this virus can cause a huge range of illnesses. So that means it affects everyone differently. In some people, it can actually cause them to die. In some people, it can cause them to be so seriously ill that they're pretty much near death. And in some people, it's really mild for them. And those are the actual lucky ones, and they will recover easily. The thing is, we don't know who will get what. We can't really predict one person, how severe it'll be versus another person. For example, you probably saw the story of the two siblings recently in the news. They tested positive for COVID after they went to California for their uncle's funeral. And the scary part is they're my age. I'm in my 30s, and they literally died 1 week apart from each other. So we can't really predict how severe a person's illness is going to be if they get COVID-19. But we do know certain factors can increase your risk of being severely ill, like being an older adult or having certain medical conditions like diabetes or heart disease or cancer or just even being obese. We also know how it spreads because it's a virus and we've all dealt with viruses before. If you've ever had a common cold or the flu, you've had a virus. So how do you get a virus? And this is all part of the education for our patients. You get a virus by someone coughing, sneezing, or shaking your hand after they coughed or sneezed into their hand. Basically, the virus can be shot into the air by someone laughing, talking, coughing, sneezing. And if they're close to you, you could breathe all that in. Or if you shake their hand and then rub your eyes or eat a sandwich and then boom, the next day, you got a pathogenic factor in the exterior stage. So you're sneezing, you have a runny nose, sore throat, you got a headache. So we know how it spreads. That means we know how to prevent it. And this is where we educate our patients on infection control. So I took this straight from the CDC, and it makes complete sense. If a virus can be spread by someone laughing, coughing, sneezing, then we have to cover our mouths when we cough or sneeze. And one way to do that is to wear a mask. And that's also why they taught us since forever to sneeze into our elbow or sneeze into a napkin. Another way is to not get too close to people, to avoid close contact with others. Because when they breathe, sneeze, laugh, cough, that virus can get into the air. And if you're close to them, you could potentially breathe it in. Another way is to avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth without washing your hands. If you've been out for a while and you're touching groceries, wash your hands before you eat. Washing your hands is really important. Soap and water is one of the basic fundamentals of healthcare professionals. So whenever you go into your patient's room, you wash your hands, and you wash your hands in front of your patient. So they trust that your hands are clean before you go into your examination. And if there isn't soap and water available wherever you are, if you have an alcohol-based hand sanitizers, that can do the trick as well. So all of these measures is part of our toolkit as healthcare professionals and just as people in general. This toolkit helps us prevent the spread of COVID-19 or any other viruses to our patients and to each other. So we can wash our hands, we can wear a mask, we can limit how close we are to other people, and now we have another part of our toolkit, which is we can begin to get vaccinated. And that's the central topic of this video. So now that we have another tool in our toolbox, a vaccine, our patients are going to have a lot of questions about this. In fact, we all have a lot of questions about this. So I did a lot of research reading everything from the CDC and Pfizer and Moderna about COVID-19, and I'll share with you the facts so you can share with your patients and your friends. So the number one thing I found is that there's a high standard for the process of vaccine approval. And this graphic here shows you the 4 phases. And this is actually the process for all vaccines. Every vaccine that has ever come out goes through these same phases. And COVID-19 vaccine is no different. COVID-19 vaccines are also going through these 4 phases. In phase 1, they have to determine, is the vaccine safe? And are there any serious side effects? How does the dose relate to those side effects? And is the vaccine causing a benefit? Is it actually causing an immune response in the body? And once they get a positive answer to all that, then they go into phase 2. In phase 2, they ask, what are the short-term side effects? Is there still an immune response? Is the vaccine actually protecting the patient? And they get a positive answer for all that, and then they go into phase 3. So right now, that's where we're at. We're in phase 3. There's a lot of vaccines in phase 3. So it's important to talk about this here. Yes, there's no information about long-term effects of the vaccine, but all vaccines go through these same phases just like the COVID-19 vaccine. The only difference right now with the COVID-19 vaccine is that it's being authorized for use via something called an EUA, or an emergency use authorization. So what is an EUA? So an EUA is this authorization that the FDA can give so that we can use a medicine or a vaccine before it's officially approved. You see, there's 4 phases for a vaccine to be approved, and phase 4 is when that medicine or vaccine actually becomes approved. So right now, the vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna are in phase 3. But because there's this global pandemic and it's been declared a public health emergency, which means it has the potential to affect national security, it has the potential to affect the health and security of citizens and humans in general, that means the FDA can issue an EUA, an emergency use authorization, so that we can use this vaccine to stop COVID-19 that's already killing so many people. The thing is, we can only use it if certain criteria are met. So what are these criteria? First, whatever is happening, it has to be considered serious or life-threatening, which COVID-19 checks the box for that. Second, it has to be based on well-controlled research and scientific data, aka all the phases that these COVID-19 vaccines have to go through that we mentioned before. The data has to show that this product can be effective to prevent, diagnose, or treat that serious or life-threatening disease, or at the very least, it can mitigate the conditions caused. Third, the known and potential benefits of the product have to outweigh the known and potential risks of the product. So the benefits of using the vaccine have to outweigh the known risks. And the last criteria is that there isn't any other adequate, approved, and available alternative. So in this case, all 4 criteria are met. So therefore, an EUA can be given. The FDA would then allow this vaccine, even though it hasn't gone to the 4th phase where it officially gets approved, the FDA would allow it to be used in this case of a public health emergency. But that doesn't mean that the phases stop or that the trials stop. They still have to continue the clinical trials, and they still have to continue gathering data for long-term safety and efficacy, even while the vaccine is being distributed. So, as of the time of this recording, 2 vaccines have received the EUA, which is Pfizer and Moderna. And if you're like me, you'd want to know exactly how many were tested and who, and I have that information right on the next slide. But I should talk about Pfizer and Moderna first. They both require 2 doses. Pfizer requires one 21 days apart, and the Moderna requires them to be 28 days apart. Both vaccines have been tested in tens of thousands of adults, and they did use people of diverse backgrounds, which I have that information on another slide. And the trial data show that both vaccines are safe and effective at preventing COVID-19. What they don't know is how long the protection from those vaccines might last. That meaning how long the antibodies will last in your body. In fact, they don't even know through natural immunity how long the antibodies last in your body. So these are the specifics of the vaccine trials. They're both randomized, double-blinded, and placebo-controlled trials. That's the gold standard when it comes to studying interventions. Double blind, meaning nobody knows who's getting what. The patient doesn't know what they're getting, the researchers don't know what they're giving. This way it doesn't taint the results because the researchers can't be biased, the patient can't be biased, or have any expectations of the results. In this case, one group gets the vaccine, one group gets a placebo. And a placebo is basically nothing. But the thing is, the recipient doesn't know that. So the placebo is given to one group and the actual vaccine is given to the other. So then they compare the effects from those who got it and those who didn't get it. And this is the highest quality in terms of studies. And that means you can really trust the results. The outcome is the outcome. The result is the result. And you can't really skew it or fudge it. So with Pfizer, as of November 30th, there was 43,000 people enrolled. More than 43,000 people enrolled at over 150 clinical sites. And the racial ethnic distribution, 13% Hispanic, 10% African American, 6% Asian, and 1% Native American. And the age range from 56 to 85 were 45% of those 43,000. With Moderna, as of November 30th, there was 30,000 enrolled at 89 clinical sites across 32 US states. And the racial ethnic distribution for that one is 20% Hispanic, 10% African American and Black, 4% Asian, and 3% all others. And 64% of them were ages 45 and older. So, now that we can explain the trials and why the trials are actually trustworthy, our patients are going to have questions about even what an mRNA vaccine is and how it works. So in the simplest way, and I'll read from the slide, an mRNA vaccine teaches your body how to make a harmless piece of the spike protein for SARS-CoV-2. The cell wears this spike protein, and your body's immune system responds with antibodies. So we already have mRNA in our bodies. mRNA tells our cells what proteins to make and when. So in the case of coronavirus, scientists were able to figure out the code that creates the spike protein. So how the mRNA vaccine works is that it teaches our body how to make a harmless piece of that spike protein for COVID. From there, your body detects it and it's going to make an antibody for it. The spike protein, which you see in this green guy here, is the spike. It's a characteristic of coronavirus. That's what the corona means, like a crown. So if the real thing comes into your body, then your body already is prepared and it's going to kill it before it multiplies. And your patient may also tell you that they heard from Facebook or from wherever that the vaccine can give you coronavirus. And you can answer, since you know the mechanism with which the mRNA vaccine actually works, that that would be impossible because the method doesn't use a live virus. So there's no way you can actually get coronavirus from the mRNA vaccine. The flu vaccine uses a live virus, an actual live virus. That live virus is just not at full strength. It's weakened, so your body can kill it and create the antibody. And that's why someone who's immunocompromised wouldn't get a flu vaccine shot because they're already deconditioned. They're already having a weak immune system. So mRNA vaccines do not use a live virus. Therefore, you can't get coronavirus from the mRNA vaccine. Your patient may also tell you that the mRNA vaccine will cause them to be a transcendental human or a mutant because it's going to change their DNA. And you can also answer with the fact that the mRNA vaccine that comes into the body and the code for the spike protein, yes, it enters your cell, but it doesn't enter the nucleus of the cell. The nucleus of the cell is where your DNA is. And mRNA would never enter the nucleus of the cell because that's not how mRNA works. It enters the cell and it tells it to create that spike protein. That spike protein shoots out of your cell and then your body recognizes it and kills it. So since mRNA vaccine doesn't enter your nucleus where your DNA is, it would never affect your DNA or even alter it in any way. Another question they could ask is, why do people get sick from the vaccine? So all vaccines can have side effects, just like all drugs have side effects. With vaccines, you can have a fever, a headache, a muscle ache. You may recognize this as exterior type condition. And with mRNA vaccine, what they found is that it actually produces more symptoms after the second dose. The fever, the headache, the muscle aches. And the thing with the vaccine is that it takes time for your body to produce those antibodies. And the thing is, no significant safety concerns were identified in the clinical trials. And they gathered that safety data for 8 weeks. And it's highly unusual for any side effects to appear more than 8 weeks after a vaccination. So your patient might also ask, how did they get this vaccine out so quickly? So because it came out so quickly, that's the number one reason why a lot of people aren't trusting it. And that's completely understandable. And it's a valid question. But we need to help our patients understand why it was able to come out so quickly. First, there's a real urgency because there's a global pandemic with people dying. Now, you put that urgency together with the technology that we have in the 21st century. I mean, we literally have cars that can drive themselves now. And we literally have artificial intelligence that we can tell to call and make hair appointments for us or order food for us. So you put that urgency with the technology that we have, and we can actually make really crazy outcomes. Second, because of the internet and years of companies already doing research in vaccine and medicine development, we already have this global network of clinical trial research labs. So they were all able just to work together to quickly get everything together and start clinical trials right away. And third, there was already heavy investment in everything that a vaccine needs, all while the vaccine was being tested and produced. Usually, that stuff happens after the vaccine's approved. Because if you invest in everything a vaccine needs, the vials, the reagents, the storage equipment, the needles, transportation companies, everything. If you're a company and you invest billions of dollars into a vaccine, and then at the end, the research company that's researching the vaccine says, yeah, I'm really sorry, but it doesn't actually work, then you just invested all that money for nothing. But with COVID-19, companies already started investing in making more needles, making more vials, making storage freezers, so that when the EUA comes or becomes approved, they're already ready. And then fourth, mRNA vaccines don't actually use live virus. So labs can synthesize mRNA quickly and easily because they can actually do the exact code that the virus uses without the negative potentially killing you part. So labs can make these in mass quantities quickly. And lastly, the FDA and CDC have agreed to prioritize any COVID-19 vaccine candidates, which is a bad news for all those companies who are working on other medications for like gout or a receding hairline. Basically, their submissions got pushed to the bottom of the pile, and anything COVID-19 is getting looked at first. So even though the COVID-19 vaccine came out so quickly, safety is still the number one priority. So we should emphasize to our patients that COVID-19 vaccines are held to the same safety standards as all other vaccines and all other medications. Before any vaccine receives authorization or approval, the FDA carefully reviews all the safety data from clinical trials. And there's even an advisory committee on immunization practices, or the ACIP, that they study all the data as well, in addition to the FDA. And then even after the vaccine is authorized and used, the FDA and CDC still monitor the safety of the vaccine over time. And this actually brings us to the next part, which is how they continue to monitor. So monitoring vaccine safety is actually a regular ongoing part of vaccine development. There's already systems that have been in place for decades to monitor and make sure vaccines are safe. So I'm talking about all the vaccines that has ever been out, flu, measles, everything. There's a reporting system for the adverse events that can occur. There's the VAERS, which is the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, which collects and analyzes and reports all the adverse events that could happen after a vaccination. There's the Vaccine Safety Data Link, which is a network of healthcare organizations where they share all their data to analyze the healthcare information and all the adverse events or side effects that are occurring. There's the Clinical Immunization Safety Assessment, or the CISA, which is a collaboration between the CDC and a bunch of medical research centers, and they share all of their data to help understand vaccine safety so that they can respond quickly should something go awry. Then there's the FDA's Biological Effectiveness and Safety System, the BEST. The system, again, of the health records, the administration records, all the side effects that are being reported, and they actively surveil it and research it, and that way they can respond quickly if something goes awry. So these are all in place, and that way they can discover and coordinate if there's a widespread adverse event happening to a vaccine. So now with COVID-19, they've even developed more systems. They developed a new thing called vSafe, and they're really pushing this system because it's so user-friendly. It basically just uses text messages to help monitor your symptoms live after you get the vaccine. They send you a text message asking you a couple questions. That data goes to their Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, the VAERS. That way the experts are able to monitor everything and respond quickly. So it's not just like they're giving out the vaccine and hoping for the best. They're monitoring the administration. They're also monitoring any potential adverse events that can come out from the vaccine. So, benefits of getting the vaccine. When you get a vaccine, the antibodies help your body fight against the virus if it really does come. Getting a vaccine can help you from getting seriously ill, because if the real thing comes, your body already has antibodies that can come and attack it so that it doesn't spread quickly in your body. And further, it can protect your family, your coworkers, your patients from getting the virus. If you get the real thing, your body already has antibodies that can kill it so that you don't spread it to another person. So vaccination is a safer way to build protection. Because yes, when you do get an infection, your body creates antibodies, and that's called natural immunity. But the thing is, the risk of severe illness and death from COVID-19 for yourself and others around you outweighs the benefit of that natural immunity. So a vaccine can actually create an antibody in your body without the risk of severe illness or death. And vaccination is just one part of the toolkit. Just because you get a vaccination doesn't mean that the pandemic stops right away. You still have to use multiple tools from the toolkit to help stop the pandemic. And using a combination of the multiple parts of the toolkits give us the best chance of putting an end to this pandemic. So even though we get the vaccine, we still have to wear our mask, we still have to avoid big crowds and stay 6 feet from each other, we still have to wash our hands often. And lastly, I just want to say, this video was not made to give you medical advice. This video was made to educate you on COVID-19 and the data that comes out of the CDC. If you have questions about the vaccination as it relates to you and your own health conditions, you should go and talk to your own doctor and ask them those questions. And to get more information, definitely visit the CDC website. You can go to www.cdc.gov, or you can even call them at 1-800-CDC-INFO. That's 1-800-CDC-INFO. I'm going to put all these resources and links in the description. All right, so that does it for today's video. Again, I'm Dr. Richard Lai with Study Acupuncture with me. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give this video a like, and I hope I'll see you again on next week's episode. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos coming up. So until next time, God bless, stay safe, and happy studying.